Hello, this is Cynthia, and I haven't been doing the Cynthia's talk for over I think 2 weeks because I'm moving to another temporary homeless accommodation. So I'm just fixing my furnitures and decorate my room to make it comfortable to stay. So now I have some my space to do something. Uh, to and this is the end of 2022, and it's been another year, strange year for me. And I've been under, as I said, situation for I think 4 to 5 years, and hopefully I will, and I can live the. It's been a long-term to loop to this year, coming year, and in view of all this suffering, um, in Vienna school psychoanalysis, there's a leader called Victor E. Frankl. He wrote a book about Victor E. Frankl, his famous book, A Man's Search for Meaning. He, he said when he was in the um, Auschwitz camp, which is uh, a camp for the Jewish people while in the Second World War. He found people who found the meaning in the camp, um, who the suffering has a meaning that they can survive. This book this book actually resonates my learning in Stoicism and also Buddhism. In Stoicism, we talk about how to tolerate the pain, the suffering, and find the meaning. And in Buddhism, though people think it is like kind of nihilism, but actually, it just have a universal law about suffering. And then the meaning of suffering usually at the end of the ultimate reality, it is meaningless. But how we conquer the suffering is the practice. Today I would like to use my experience, and then I just frame it and want to share with the people who feel they are suffering. But actually, from my point of view, everybody who can manage their emotions suffering, but it may be kind of exaggerated. If we see the detail of the suffering, we can actually find the practical way to solve the every little issue. Then we can release from the suffering. But as you know, as we have, even suffering because a victim mindset get us feel warmth and love from others. And the other thing is the dopamine bar too high for the people always have lots of material life and love, and they have a very high dopamine bar. That means people with they are always in a better position can easily get depression. That's just the reason people actually the depression is a rich countries epidemic. It's not in poor countries. Very few people get um, uh, people in the poor country do not have. Very few of them have depression. It's because they are in surviving mode most of the time. And the rich countries people, they have the mind space to think other to feel more, and then they have a really high dopamine bar, so that gives them difficult to get happiness. That is where the depression. That's why we always, if especially people in the rich, we have kind of writing gratitude journal in the morning to force us to get the feeling about even we can breathe fresh air. From my point of view, is already a blessing that really lower your dopamine bar when you write a gratitude journal. Okay, now let's directly talk about what is suffering from my point of view because I'm really an expert about this. A moment, please. Let me turn the my phone another way. Okay, this is oh, This is a shadow. Okay, this is the photo that the mind map that awake about suffering. Suffering versus exposing. For me, suffering is about exposing something that we don't know, and this is the journey to make us to make us better and happier. So, in suffering, we find the meaning during the incident exposed. So, what is suffering? Usually, it is physical or emotional. Physical, usually we talk about accident, sickness, and emotional is all kinds of emotional you can imagine. Something like angry, something like grief. If people die, your loved one die, or shame, people shame you, or sometimes people bully you, and then you feel bad, and then maybe something about guilt. You feel something wrong of doing something to other people. You feel guilt. So, in physical and emotional meaning, if you will find you need to find the meaning of this suffering and then reframe them, and framing is very important. While you got different kinds of feelings. If it is negative, whether you should deny it, whether you should accept it as it is, and then to find the uh, weakness of your character so that you can improve, or whatsoever other ways. So you need to do some reflection about what happened, why you feel that way. So in these two kinds of sufferings, you have stress. If you can't handle it, you will have stress, and stress can turn the emotional suffering into physical one, as we said, because most of the emotional physical suffering like cancer or kinds of sickness is due to emotional suffering. So far as I know, my mom was discovered to have diabetes. It was after the death of my dad. Kind of emotion that let her crave in sweetness to get kind of warmth and swimming of her heart. So face suffering. So it is a time to reprogram. So it's the time to reprogram our not only our mind but our brain physically to reprogram, because the brain has different kinds of neurotransmitters, chemical hormones to release from even from. So it's both our mind and brain need to be reprogrammed. So because we have habitual behavior, uh, the suffering. Oh, sorry. So our mind and brain need to be reprogrammed, and also our upgrade, because the old one may not, so as we grow, we will face different new challenges, a new situation. Our OL system may not be used and may not be used in the proper way, or may not be function as usual. So we need to upgrade our value system. So in between, there will be happen. The neural pathway will we may need to have build up a neural pathway. As I said, habit cannot be changed, but to build up a new neural pathway, that means and our brain will fire to build up a new neural pathway, not change. Sorry, and that means our brain need to fire and wire, and then that will build up a new pathway that become our habit. So what is suffering actually is exposing. Exposing what? Your habitual response. That means when that things trigger you, something you don't like, press your button and then you respond. So in the past, the response is or reaction is useful to for you to survive. But now there's happened some you can't use it anymore. You feel pain, suffering, that is the habitual response cannot help you anymore. So in psychology, it's called conditioning. You're conditioned to respond in certain ways, or autopilot. You respond just you don't need your brain to think. You just respond autopilot. So also the suffering also exposed the external reality. That means you are in a new situation, and then it is in Buddhism it's called conventional reality. So everything one in certain way like karma and people, the interaction of people. Uh, According to certain norms, moral standard in different country, in different situation. So this is the external reality. So you need to know, maybe you don't really get the external reality when you grow up. Maybe you're in a protected environment, so you don't know the external reality. There there was a story about a kid who raised by fox. When he went back to the human world, he need to face the external reality. So from an animal-like human being turned into in a civilized human world. So he just took 2 years to become the normal human beings in the civilized world, so that he adapt to the external reality that we use to interact. So let's talk about the trigger and response. So when in trigger and response, that is new trigger, and then you can't respond in the old way. So there is suffering. Suffering means has new meanings. You give the meanings of the situation, and then you get to practice the new way. So in between here, you change your value system. You change the way you see the world. You learn new method to adapt to the new situation. So it is very painful. This is the learning curve start here. So you learn everything here, and then but the thing you learn like Buddhism, you need to. We always talk about practice. So that means you need to practice to get it become your habit, so that you can respond in a habitual way that favorite your life. So this is the practice you need. So that now you have the new response that makes you easier to survive in this world. So now, if you can't, you know the meaning, or you can't find the meaning, and then you didn't practice well, so you fail to have the new. Oh, you fail to have the new um, habit to respond to the new situation that makes you become to have trauma. The trauma can be healed if you can find a new meaning and through this pathway. So if you can, so that you will have PTSD, all kinds of bad things, mental illness happen after you can't heal your trauma. So that means it is also important that the meaning of the uh, suffering. If you find the one meaning that of the suffering, you may learn the one skill and become someone evil, and then you practice some evil way, and then you respond in some evil way. You become an evil. So that is why my enemy, he get the meaning of their old situation. Maybe people are bad, and I have to fake myself to become nice, to give the third party a good impression, so that I can harm people in a really subtle way. That is my enemy. They do. So this is the whole picture about suffering that I learned from these 4 years. Okay, let me turn around the. Oh, yes. This is what I want to. Yes, this is how I want to share with you guys about the sufferings. So In other part, I will talk about it in Chinese so that more people can understand the how to use the suffering. Bye. Happy New Year.